to ESI Africa Insights. For this episode, I am speaking with Robert Mubiru, who is an energy consultant in Uganda. Welcome, Robert.
Thank you very much, Nicolette. It's always a pleasure to be here. I am a consultant, but right now I'm plugged in with the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in Uganda. There's a project, the Electricity Access Scale-Up Project, where on the major component, about 357 million out of 640, I'm the project manager of the implementing unit.
Now, that is a very big project that's coming up, and we're going to discuss that. So, Robert, tell me, in terms of East Africa leading the off-grid solar market, which we have seen a lot on ESI Africa, what are the policies that are driving this development?
So first and foremost, there was a recognition that this technology is very private sector friendly in terms of deployment. The synergies between the GSM platform and the project in terms of availing friendly financing options for uptake was quickly recognized by governments. There have also been a good number of governments, I know where I come from in Uganda, where certain tax breaks and certain costs are taken out of the import cycle for components, so that buys down the cost, but also allowing the private sector freedom to operate and having many private sector players, especially in Uganda, there are really many. So that competition drives down cost. It has a bit of a downside, which we'll discuss, but it drives down the cost and most importantly, makes the technology ubiquitous and known by the recipients. Yeah.
So keeping with the East Africa market, how do policymakers then encourage private sector participating in utility scale generation?
Utility scale generation. Yeah, so first and foremost, I'll give my experience in the East African environment. For utility scale generation, I think one of the things that was, I won't say drummed, but promoted by our development partners, the financiers, World Bank, FD, whatnot, was the need for a strong, reliable, durable, consistent fiscal environment. Because in a power sector, the generators are at the tail end, well, it depends on how you look at it, front end, tail end of the cycle, at the front end for delivery. And they have little or no contact in most cases with the customers. So they need consistent, reliable funding. So what that has incentivized most governments to do is to make their distribution and money collections and loss reduction environments more robust, to seek. Different countries are along the way at different levels, but to the extent that I know of a specific large hydro project that was being financed by the Chinese, when the government went to negotiate, they said, no, want the distributor there. Because they know that sinking all that money into this asset and the recouping of the investment takes time. We need to make sure that the distributors committed and on board. So those are some of the policies that have enabled, but also the deregulation of the sector, splitting it up into its component parts, has allowed focused private, public, and public sector, private sector involvement in generation. So it's not unusual to go into a country and you find all different mannerisms of mixes of generation, and some are private, some are PPPs, and they're all, supplying power. Yeah. So yeah.
So we've got a lot of generation projects that we will see being commissioned this year and into the future.
Yes.
But in terms of the transmission network, what are the policy developments that you have seen specifically in the East African market?
Yeah, so transmission is a bit of a let's call it the orphan or the poor cousin in the transmission, all very costly government you handle, and and poor governments must run around looking for really not small amounts of money, because it's quite costly, it's very critical hardware that we need on the network. The greatest benefit with the transmission network, if it's done right, it is a very long-term, durable asset. I mean, just take a look at Southern Africa, where some of the lines are, tens of years, old. So with that in mind, especially in the East African environment, there have been attempts to see how can we get the private sector players involved so that we look at more than one line of financing coming in for, rather than having governments going around with a pan in hand to various countries and development agencies. One of the things that has emerged is changing laws and regulations and the governance environment to allow for direct deployment of assets by private sectors, and they run it sort of like a highway. So they're paid back or out of the operations of the network, their investment plus obviously a return over a certain period of its lifespan, and they sort of a build, own, operate until the money is recouped, and then the asset is handed back to governments. So that allows governments to deploy the necessary transmission infrastructure, which is critical to accessing markets. A very good example
Absolutely.
is we have a captive market in Southern Sudan. They're not going to have any sufficient generation in the near term, hundreds of minerals to exploit, and we have a huge 600 megawatt power plant just 80 kilometers from their border. So there is afoot a project which is being considered by the Uganda government and the government of Juba to allow a private player to send a 400 kV line so that they get the power now, which they need, and will pay back the investor. So you unlock this economic potential, and you pay back you pay back the private investor. You don't have to look around for the money.
So there's a lot happening in that region, and we will still have a lot more discussion around that.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Robert, for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you for watching. Tune in for the next video and have a powerful day.